morning, Eastern Oregon, and welcome to this October 28th version of AM Live on EOA, your connection to Eastern Oregon. Glad that you are here with us. If you want to find our content, if you go to EOA.network, type that into the browser place, and it will take you to a link tree where you can find the location of our YouTube and Facebook and Instagram and all of those places. Glad that you're here with us. Here in just a little bit, we are going to have LHS coach Klel Carson, the wrestling coach. He'll be with us to talk to us about the award that he got for. I'll have him describe it. And anyhow, glad you're here with us. How are you, man?
Oh, I'm good. It's second Monday.
Yeah.
Feels like a Monday too.
Yeah, that game.
Oh, it was crazy, man. It was the best World Series game I've ever seen.
Huh.
Well,
I mean, I watched it. So did it remain 4-4 until the very end?
5-5, I think.
5-5, is that? Because I tuned in for a couple minutes when it was 4-4.
Yeah. Freddie Freeman hit a walk-off home run in the bottom of the 18th. That's he's the first person in history with 2 World Series walk-off home runs.
Really?
Yep.
Huh.
That's just unreal. Shohei Ohtani is unreal too. I mean, it's like he's not even from this planet. He went 4 for 4 with 2 home runs, 2 doubles, and was intentionally walked 5 times. First player in over 100 years to reach base 9 times in any game.
That's crazy.
Toronto's coach after the game said, "Well, the media guy said, well, you walked him intentionally 5 times. Is that going to be how it is here on out?" And he goes, "Yep." So Shohei Ohtani's not going to get to hit much anymore in the World Series. They're just going to put him on base.
Yeah, well, why not?
That's like Bonds in 2009, I think it was.
Yeah.
He walked like 100 and I don't even remember how many, and around 100 intentional walks or something. Yeah. It's crazy. It was wild.
Have you seen that? I saw a social media video the other day of Shohani. Is it Shohani? Am I saying
Shohei.
Shohei.
Hey, yeah, Shohei.
Shohei at bat, and he's batting, and the pitcher, and it's an entire at bat, and while they're at bat, they have the salary.
Oh yeah, I saw that.
Going up, the pitcher salary is going up. Yeah, the compare. Yeah, and one at bat with Shohei. Shohei, like $27,000, and the pitcher, was anyhow because
that pitcher is also the league minimum. That's what.
Oh, is he? Was that what that was? Yeah. Anyhow, it was a.
He's only been in the big leagues for like 2 months.
Yeah.
And Shohei Ohtani makes $700. He's on a $700 million contract, and almost all of it's deferred. Over
how long?
Well, it's a 10-year deal, but he has it all deferred out over. Like, he's smart. He's got it to where he has it set up to where he'll end up paying 1/10 of the tax that he would have paid if he would have taken it.
Oh, interesting.
$70 million a year.
Huh.
Yeah, and the Dodgers would have never been able to pay him $70 million a year. That's how they kind of tweak things. Is they'll defer. I mean, you got guys like, I think the Bobby Bonilla just finished his last year of a deferred contract with the Mets, and the last time he played was like 2007.
Huh.
Yeah.
Well.
Yep, that's how they do it.
All right. Well, hey, you want to talk sports? Yep.
Let's do it. AM Sports Report brought to you by Hobby Habit in LeGrand. Friday, November 7th through the 9th. Hobby Habit will be celebrating 42 years in business. What does this mean to you? Well, this means that if you purchase something during that weekend, you get to spin the wheel of savings. And that'll give you a 10 to 35% off deal. That's a great deal. Joe has done a great job with that store. Everything's new, updated. He's got a great selection of Traxxas RC cars, Magic the Gathering cards, STEM products, Frisbee golf. His Lego selection is top of the line. Hobby Habit, just for the fun of it. EOU volleyball lost at home on Saturday night to Southern Oregon University. That was their first home loss in almost a year. And the last time they lost at home, yeah, you got it, Southern. It's like one of those monkeys right now. Got to get it off the back. They still have a full game lead in the CCC as they look to host the CCC conference tournament if they finish out, as league champions, which they should. I mean, they don't have any really tough games. Tomorrow night's probably the toughest. They host C of I at home at 7 o'clock in Quinn. It's Wear Camo Night and Women in Business Appreciation Night up there. So get out there and support the number one team in the nation. Coming off of a loss and playing a fairly tough 19th ranked C of I team, they could probably use some support. EOU football, man. Oh gosh, where do I even start with this? Let's see. They were 2-0 in the conference going into this game on Saturday night. The defense was absolutely stellar during the game. They ended up losing 7-0. The offense had serious issues moving the ball. I mean, I'm not going to lie. Some decision making down the line. I mean, a lot of people have come up to me and said, "What were they thinking?" And I don't know that I agree with it either. You kicking a 50-yard field goal in 40-degree temperatures with a kicker that doesn't even warm up. I don't know. It got blocked in return for the only touchdown of the game, and EOU ended up ultimately losing 7-0. But let's not take anything away from that defense, man. The defense was absolutely stellar against a really tough C of I team, and that's 2 weeks in a row where pretty much all year, but they only gave up 7 points to Southern the week before. And EOU's in a little bit better spot than I thought they would be right here. They're 2-1 in conference. They go to Montana Western this weekend, and they're not out of it by any means. They just got to figure out this offensive problem that they're having. EOU men's and women's soccer both won on Friday versus Providence. They finished the regular season with the Washington trip, so that means Northwest and Evergreen. Both teams are already qualified for the conference tournament, which means I think the women are number 2, the men are number 1. So basically right now all they're playing for is seeds. And you want to win out. You want the best seed possible going into the conference tournament. And the men still haven't lost this year. I'll have head coach Jesse Watson on the show later in the week. We're going to sit down and talk about this. It's crazy. They go and they win the conference tournament last year unexpectedly. They finished 4th in the conference during the regular season. And then this year, they still haven't lost. We're almost done. We got 2 conference games left, and that's it. And this EOU men's team hasn't lost. EOU men's and women's cross country has the weekend off, and then they turn around and go to Independence on November 7th for the CCC championships. I have 2 interviews. I wanted to get them out last week. I'm going to try to get them out today or tomorrow. I almost have them done. I had some audio issues on one of them, but Thomas Ogden and Kalia Hines sat down with me, and we talked a little bit of cross country. LHS volleyball finishes off their regular season tonight at home, senior night, versus Pendleton. Varsity starts at 6:30. I think JV2 starts at 4. Boys soccer hosts Pendleton on Thursday night at 6 as they celebrate their seniors as well. LHS girls soccer goes to Pendleton on Thursday for a 4 p.m. kickoff to close out their regular season. LHS cross country has their district championship meet this Thursday as well at 11 a.m. And I'm only, highlighting this because I got a message from somebody at the high school that saw my rant about changing schedules and not letting people know. And she messaged me as soon as they found out and said the cross-country districts are at 11 a.m. at LeGrand Country Club on Thursday. So I'm going to finally get some cross-country pictures, which is going to be nice. Finally, LHS football hosts Pendleton on Friday night for the GOL Championship at 7 p.m. live right here on EOA Live. Baker will also host the Dowls Friday night at 7 p.m., and that'll be streamed simultaneously right here on EOA Live. So we have 2 games going on at the same time, even on Roku. So there's 2 windows in Roku in the live area. The left window's Windows 1, the right window's EOA Live Stream 2, and LeGrand will be on the left. Baker will be on the right. If you have any questions about it, just feel free to message us and we'll get you taken care of. I want to end it on this, though. Last night I went to a JV football game, and it's kind of a little bit of a rant. I mean, I'm kind of opinionated. I guess I'll start here. We beat the Dallas JV by like 50 points last night. It was an absolute blowout. a couple things that I think need to be brought to attention is JV football is a place where you should be developing players. I think most coaches would agree with me. Last night, the quarterback played the entire game for LeGrand. I don't like that. He played both sides of the ball, kickoff, kick return. It's like there's other kids that can be developing. And we also, and here's my biggest problem, we brought a varsity starter down and started him in a JV game. A week with Pendleton for the GOL championship on Friday and playoffs, and it didn't help anybody. It didn't help the varsity starter at all to go beat up on some JV kids. It didn't help whoever might have played in his spot and would have, got some playing time. And it didn't help us win. And so it's like, why? There's just some things I don't understand. And I thought about this before I said this. There's nothing that you can say to me that would make me understand that. Because they're really, like, all you're doing is putting somebody at risk to get hurt if you don't have them for the varsity game then. It don't make any sense. AM Sports Report brought to you by Hobby Habit, just for the fun of it.
All right. So I think we need to have a little thing. Whenever you go into a rant, it could be like, this is the editorial moment.
I mean, I didn't know I had to explain that.
I don't think you do.
No.
All right. Well, hey, let's take a look outside.
I mean, there was also like at least 5 people that came up to me after that game and said the exact same thing.
Yeah.
It's like, it's not, I don't know.
No, you're good.
It looks beautiful out there today.
It is, yeah. This is, I mean, the leaves, there still looked like about 80.
Ooh.
I mean, where I was looking yesterday, like about 80% of the leaves are still on. But man,
Snow.
a week from now, it'll be gone. Yeah.
Hey, you can't even see Mount Emily because
Well.
Ugh.
All right. Well, let's take a look at that graph. 52. Man, it was chilly this morning. So, according to this, there's only 12-degree difference between day and night tonight. So
That's not bad.
No, it's actually going to be pretty warm tonight because it was frosty this morning. It was cold. I mean, it
Not
was below
tomorrow
freezing.
night, though. Look at that, down into freezing.
Yep. Cool.
No.
And then our games, what is supposed to be
Friday.
like on Friday? Yeah.
55.
Yeah.
Warmest day of the week. Or no, Saturday, 61.
Yeah. All righty. Well, cool. Well, glad you guys are here with us. So, Klel Carson recently won an award, and it was...
Well, he didn't win an award. He was inducted into the Hall of Fame.
Thank you. Yeah, so clarify what it is.
Yeah, it's just he was inducted into the National Wrestling Hall of Fame, Oregon chapter, a few weeks ago in Silverton with, I think, 6 or 7 other coaches from Oregon.
Yeah.
And I want to say that I think there's only 2 coaches from LeGrand that have ever been inducted, Burrow and Klel. But
Yeah, so anyhow, so he's going to be with us in a minute, but as he's coming up, there's about a 5-minute video that we're going to show you that was actually played at that award, that ceremony. So we'll be right back.
Yeah.
What I realized it's not about the winning. It's about the impact that you can have on these kids and helping them to be champions in life, and great fathers, great husbands, and just great people. What I didn't know is the impact that all these kids would have on me. My name is Klel Carson, and I've been coaching wrestling for 32 years. My journey as a wrestling coach started with my old Hall of Fame wrestling coach, Burl Miller. Wandered into a gas station when I was a sophomore in college, and he said, hey, Klel, what do you think about coaching wrestling with me at the high school? And I said, I don't even know if I'd like kids, Burl. And, that's how that's where it started, and I've been on that journey ever since. There was a time, I think, at the beginning of my career where, people say that, that coach is living through kids, and I was I was a wrestler that didn't necessarily always meet the goals that I had as a wrestler, and I think that kind of motivated me as a coach. As time went along, what I realized it's not about the winning. It's about the impact that you can have on these kids and helping them to be champions in life, and great fathers, great husbands, and just great people. What I didn't know is the impact that all these kids would have on me. I feel like I've lived the greatest life possible, and I don't know what's next. There's some just continue coaching for right now. I still love it, and I hope that I get to have these relationships with all these kids and continue that with more kids going into the future. And it's really awesome to be amongst people that you've just admired and respected over your career, and then to be with them. And it's a great thing to experience with these people that I've known, and different coaches from all over the state. Try not to mention any specific names, right? But I'm really thankful for that. Just to be with them and be able to continue, seeing them in different events and things, and I appreciate that. Oh man, who to thank, right? I don't know where I would start, and I don't know where I would end. It takes so much. People don't know, like it takes the mom that's willing to cook, 500 pounds of taco meat for a fundraiser, and people to barbecue steak all day long, get up at 5 in the morning for a steak feed. And it takes people running concession stands that have been doing it with me for years and years and years, and it takes people running a hospitality room that they're like, Klel, are you ever gonna retire? I've done this with you, and I keep telling them, no, one more year. I had no idea that when I started out coaching wrestling and Burl came into that gas station that that it would open up really the world to me, and just all these people that have these relationships with, and I'm so grateful and thankful for today. I'm grateful too to the sport of wrestling and the opportunities it's given me to coach. I have been blessed to coach 4 different culture exchange teams. It's opened up the world to me. I've been able to go to Japan and and meet some of the greatest wrestlers in the world, and Olympic team coaches, and been able to experience that with my own kids, my own wrestlers and my own children. I tell wrestlers this. I say, if you can wrestle and you can make it through 4 years of wrestling, you're just a little different than everybody else. That's what I tell them. You just got a little bit different, something inside of you than everybody else. Your stack of papers for an interview goes to a real short stack. If you're a wrestler, it's like you get just put in a different stack, and I think, and people know that. They're the people that hustle in the world. They're the people that hopefully do become the world's greatest fathers, and workers, and leaders, and those kinds of things. And I've seen that in my career, and it's really cool to see these kids go on with that work ethic and stuff, and become the chiropractors and the dentists and the doctors and the school teachers and the mill workers and whatever, just the people that we need in our world. The world needs more wrestlers. God has blessed me way more than I ever deserved, that is for sure. But I think the person I'm the most thankful for in this life and in this world is my wife, Amy. We didn't deserve each other for her reasons are a lot different than mine, but I'm so grateful and so thankful for her. She's been my greatest support. I tell people all the time, in education and coaching, you're never going to be rich, but you're going to be extremely wealthy if you do it the right way. And wrestling has made me extremely wealthy.
All right, we're back. Hello, Carson. How are you, man?
Good.
Good. Hey, thanks for jumping in. Man, what an honor.
Yeah, kind of crazy. Think about it, actually, just kind of really humbling, something, when you start out, you don't think like, hey, I think I'd try to be in the National Hall of Fame or something,
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just, I don't know how to feel about it really,
Yeah. Well, and especially because, I'm sure that you've looked at Verl kind of as a giant all of these years, and then to be, because he was previously inducted, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, for sure. It's always been, like, hey, my coach was a Hall of Fame coach, and, those kinds of things. And, what's been cool about being in LeGrand, a lot of people, said, what's it like, especially when I first started out, like, what's it like to coach after Verl Miller? I mean, he's a legend. I mean, I've, Dodds and I talked about this. I get off an airplane, and somebody sees LeGrand wrestling in Ecuador, and somebody will say, LeGrand wrestling, do you know Verl Miller? It's like, yeah, he's one of my closest friends and like a dad to me and all those things. And so what's always been cool is to have Verl be that guy and be there to support us, or support me too. And somebody that I talk to, weekly, even now, I mean, I still talk to him weekly, and just probably, my second greatest supporter is Burl Miller, overall. So it's been awesome, but it is kind of weird, to think about it. And, the stat girls one year, we went to the state tournament, and they said, hey, Klel, is Burl going to be in that old person's parade again? And I looked at her and I said, "Old person's parade? What are you talking about? You know where they all wear those green jackets,
Yeah,
and then they go out
there
there and they walk around the old person's parade." And so, anyways, so here I am now, I guess, in the old person's
In
parade.
the old person parade. Yeah.
So, but it's kind of fun. It's fun to be with him and Miles. Hancock. One of the guys I've coached with literally for the last 30 years. So he's also been inducted into the Hall of Fame, and Miles, and very worthy of it. We call him the MVP of LeGrand Wrestling, Miles Hancock. So, anyways, but yeah.
Well, cool.
Is that his son or his nephew that coaches at Pendleton?
That's his nephew, yeah, Trevor. I was just texting Trevor this morning, he's asking me about, hey, just had some questions, and, so, yeah, great guy, too, and, yeah, it's fun seeing Pendleton. Hey, it's really good that they're, that they are better at wrestling, and he's done a great job over there, so, yeah.
Yeah. Well, tell us a little bit about where you were born and how you got to LeGrand.
So, born and raised in LeGrand, and just just as a kid growing up, and kind of wrestling kind of helped get me kind of focused. I think you could say that. I don't know. Ask my fifth grade teacher or whatever, but like wrestling helped me, get it on the right track, and and just that's where I got kind of involved in it, and youth wrestling. Got into club wrestling with Monty Patterson was my club coach.
Yeah.
Back in the day, and I've seen Monty from time to time at different events and things. And now his grandson is my assistant principal at the middle school, and he and I work really close with athletics, and so he'll send him stuff, and so that's been kind of fun. And then Doug Hislop, also kind of took me in. He's my sixth grade teacher, and I student taught for Doug too at Greenwood School, and then from there I just was in LeGrand Wrestling and kind of did that and wrestled all the way through for Verl, and Tom Kinney was my assistant coach. A lot of other guys came along and helped in there, but I was kind of like my wrestling journey, I guess, as an athlete or whatever, and yeah, so.
And you're a teacher. Well, yeah. Tell me about your teacher journey. How did you decide to do that?
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. So, like, the video talked about in the gas station or whatever. That was kind of a big moment, and so from that, I started coaching because Verl was going to pay me. That's kind of how it started. I didn't even know if I like kids. Like all that's true, and so I started coaching, and I needed money, and I just go wrestle, and Jason Kerr was in high school, for example, and I'd wrestle him every day, and I'd wrestle the kids every day, and the Jorgensens were younger, and Sean O'Rourke, and a lot of the Amos Gabe, and all that whole era of kids, and just sort of fell in love with it, coaching and working with kids, and and then from there, at the end by the end of that first season, it was just like I was kind of hooked and kind of enjoyed the kids actually, which I did, and obviously I love them, and a lot of the parents said, hey, you should think about being a teacher, and yeah, well, okay, and then Camp Elkanah actually is where somebody asked me to volunteer to be a counselor, like up at Camp Elkanah or whatever, youth something. Maybe it wasn't Camp Elkanah, but anyways, I can't remember the series of things. But anyway, I was a counselor for 4th, 5th, and 6th graders, and that's where I decided on, deciding to be a, elementary teacher, and then, so then I student taught with Hislop, and then I went down to, my first teaching job was in a little town called Oakland, but when I got down there, I got a call from the Roseburg coach, Doug Tubby, and he said, hey, you come coach with us at Roseburg High School, which is a giant, we had 95 kids out for wrestling, and I used to call it the University of Roseburg, so big, it had math department, it was like a college, but it was great, I had a great time, still good friends with Doug to this day, and then started that Oakland program up again and got it going, and that's kind of one of my favorite things, and taught 3rd and 4th grade, and then I had an opportunity to come back to LeGrand and teach 5th grade at Willow School before it closed, and I did that for 9 or 10 years probably, and then the middle school job when they closed that down came open, and I've been teaching history at the middle school ever since. So it's kind of the teaching journey, I guess.
Wow.
But yeah.
Wow. So okay, so So now then, tell us again a little bit about how you got involved with LeGrand Wrestling after you started teaching. I mean, so once
Yeah.
you came back, then did you?
Yeah, so when I came back, I started, just, when I was at 5th grade at Willow, Hislop was then the principal at the middle school. And so the first thing was he said, hey, you need to coach, middle school football, and I told him, I said, I don't know anything about football. He said, they said, well, you coached when you were down in Roseburg, football, which I did. But like football down there is like I don't know how to explain. It's a big, Channel 6 News was in our locker room, and whatever. And the guy that I was coaching with, it was like, he was great, but you know what I mean? Like I didn't know, I didn't play football, and so I came back to LeGrand, and Hislop got me involved that way at the middle school coaching football. And initially I thought, this might be a good way to recruit wrestlers, which over the years it has been, but I've also now fallen in love with football. I might love, coaching that. I've done that every year, even this year, all the way through my career. And so that's kind of how the coaching thing started. And then from there, then I got back into coaching like at the middle school, which at that point in time, it was kind of, it's amazing how things can fall off really quickly, in athletics sometimes. But yeah, my first day of practice when I went up to coach middle school wrestling, there was 3 kids,
Wow.
at the middle school. And one of them was my nephew. He had to be there. So, it was just, and then, so yeah, it just kind of, and it was just, and I 2 years was all I was down in Roseburg, Oakland. And so just a series of things happened. They cut middle school sports, remember, and for a bit, and then they, there was a lot of things that happened. My mat club coach moved away, and there's always change. The guy, that came in and did that after him did a great job, but it's just change is different, and then Burl retired. All those things happened.
Yeah, what year around was this approximately?
This would have been like 98 maybe, or 99. I don't know how that, right in there.
I think
somewhere.
97 was Verl's last year.
Yeah, maybe
Because
97. Yeah.
we won the state championship in 96, and I think he went one more year after.
Yeah.
Sound right?
Yeah, he went, yeah, I think so. I can't remember how all that ran together, but yeah, something like that. Like, because I was there, with that group of kids, and then the next year is when I started teaching and coaching down there. And then, yeah, I can't remember the sequence exactly. And then it kind of, we bounced around until we finally planed out eventually and figured, hey, everybody got on board with all the different things. So, yeah, it's, yeah, pretty crazy.
Is there, so when you started teaching, did you ever think it would, like, 2-part question, actually. Did you ever think that this day would come, what I mean, where we're sitting here talking about you being a Hall of Famer? And then the other part of it does it, like, wrestling the only sport where you get inducted into the Hall of Fame while you're still actively coaching? Is that kind of weird feeling? I mean, I wouldn't know.
Yeah, I don't know either, really. Like what other sports do as far as that goes.
They wait until after you're retired.
Yeah, and I think it's pretty, it doesn't happen a lot, too. Somebody said that to me yesterday. My friend Wade, said, man, he was saying some nice things. He said, man, you're still coaching, and that is kind of a, also humbling, or, what I mean? And it's nice that I'm really glad that it did happen as I'm younger, just so rural, people like that in my life, my father-in-law, my mother-in-law, Rusty Marlene, and people like that were able to be there with me. And, where I think if I was, in my 70s, like a lot of the, people are, it's like, you're just at a point in life where life happens, and you lose those people that you care about a lot. So it was really meaningful, like really important for me, like to have Verl there, I'd love obviously my parents to be there, but they both passed away, and things like that. So for me, that was a big deal. I was grateful that it happened, this early because of that. Not something I expected or like searched out or something. It's just like it comes along. And
I never thought of it like that. I never thought. That makes a lot of sense, really.
Yeah, it was cool, and but at the same time, I don't want to really be the old person's parade quite yet. I guess I could walk out there and I could do that, and I don't know, how much longer I continue to coach, but I still love it.
Be able to walk, maybe.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, my wrestling lab days but anyways, yeah, and I don't know how much but I still love it right now. I'm so excited about this year coming up, and we're supposed to be a little down and have the, and those are usually my favorite years, the ones that where you're not, you don't have those, like and we are a little younger this year, and stuff, and so I'm just really looking forward to it a lot. These younger kids coming up, and it's gonna be a great year. I'm excited about that. So.
Yeah, give us a little preview about this year.
I feel really good about, we have some, I always joke with Trevor, I was texting him, I always joke with him about, man, you don't know our recruiting class, what we got for our recruiting class of 2025, which, the people don't enjoy that sometimes because different histories. But we really do have a really good group of kids coming in that a lot of people don't know about. We went to summer camp this summer, and just the young kids, have really come along. And through the different programs and things, and have grown, and I'm just super excited. The sophomore class, they're freshmen. I was thinking, I really feel like you can really tell a kid that's gonna like excel at to become elite maybe or something like by the sophomore year.
Yeah.
A lot of times, you can really tell that kid's gonna be a 3-time placer or that type of thing. A lot of times it will happen their sophomore year, and we have a good group of kids that in that class that are just real athletic. They don't have a lot of maybe all the mat time and haven't wrestled 300 matches or whatever. And but grew up in our program, went through our middle school there with the coaches, and and they're coming into high school this year, and I'm just excited about them. And then we have sporadically in there also some I think 5 or 6 returning state placers, and some really good kids, that I'm excited for too, and I love those kids, and it's just, and they're good kids. I mean, at the end of the day, like that's for me, like just traveling with them, they're good kids and good parents and good families, and it's just makes it really nice, when you know that hey, it's just going to be fun, what I mean? The win, lose or draw, like hopefully more winning than that, but it's going to be great to be with these kids and these people. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. We'll see.
That's awesome.
So tell me about when you first started to coach at the high school. Tell me about that. I mean, I'm trying to remember because that was just about the time that we moved here in '97.
Yeah.
But yeah, how did you? I don't know. Talk to me about that a little bit. So
Yeah,
because you
so-
were at the junior high doing
Yep.
football, and then.
Yeah, so I did junior high wrestling there, and again, I can't remember exactly the, and then at start of it, like that first day of practice, 3 kids or whatever, and then I would also just kind of like all the guys in our program, kind of help with the different levels, and we'd go up to the high school and help up there where I could, and then really I wasn't as involved there for a bit at the high school, and then I eventually we ended up going up there. And yeah, it's kind of interesting when you start out, like I was thinking about this when you asked that question, like when I was just a kid, when when I was a college kid, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and I was thinking about, younger people who start out like in college coaching. That was me, like, and I was just,
Right.
I've got kids now that are going to be on our staff this year. And, one texted me this morning, you remember Josh Collins. So
Oh,
he's
yeah.
going to be one of our coaches this year. And he was asking me about the different tests he's got to take, and he's got a free weekend coming up. You know what I mean? And,
Right.
And he's just, like he was just in high school. He graduated in 2023, and that was kind of like me, and that's where I was at. And so I would, go up and help kids and coach them and wrestle with them, and more of that kind of role. And as far as like running practice or whatever, I would help out with that, but mostly it was just like, Verl set up practice, and Kelly Edvelson at the time, and I, and Amo Estrada,
Amo.
we were just all up there, and we just kind of followed the program, and did what we did, and then you come back, and then okay, down here, and then you jump in there, and you go through ups and downs, like it's 30 years. I mean, there's you don't win a state title every year, you know what I mean, and you don't always, but all the years have been great, you know what I mean, and it's like what I came in this morning, we're telling all kinds of stories about your kids. Don't worry, Kelsey, Michaela. I told them I wouldn't tell you. I wouldn't say anything about what we talked about.
You could just
Yeah.
tell a vague story about
Yeah.
there was a stat girl who, yeah.
Yeah, there was. Kelsey and Michaela. Yeah, it's kind of interesting. Those stat girls do so much for the program. They're so involved, and then you just have these stories. Like we're hosting a middle school dance tonight as a fundraiser. It's already going on, right? And the middle school, the stat girls are running the music. They're selling the pop. They're doing, you know what I mean, and they're doing all these things, and they just do so much. I mean, they videotape. Every kid's got their own, video. Like they'll have their own file they can go back and look at, and they've got. I mean, it's amazing what they do, they do all this work, and then I take them with us when we go. We go to Hawaii, right? And I take people like, you're taking the stack girls to Hawaii? I said, yeah, they do more work than the wrestlers. They really do. And but along the way, we have a lot of fun, and a lot of the stories that I won't share, but just with their, only with their dad here maybe, but that's but just great, great times, and just like to, yeah, they're a huge part of it too. And then what's interesting, that group of kids, like they all married the Stat girls, right? Like so,
right.
Kyle Whitty, is Brent's son-in-law, and so is Chris Tennant, and they were
Right.
both wrestlers for us, and yeah, so it's it's just a lifetime of just relationships. I think. I mean, if I had to say it like in one thing, I mean that's really what it's all about. Like over the course of the whole thing, it's just these relationships that you have with all these kids, including the Stat girls and the coaches. I mean, man, we've been anyway. We've been so spoiled in LeGrand. Wrestling is crazy. I mean, I really do think we have the greatest coaches in Oregon. I would say. Like I mean. Just I never want to mention any names, right? Because you always miss out,
Yeah, you'll forget somebody.
Yeah. But just in general, all of the people I've coached with through the years, like they've all had such a huge impact, and it's just such a great community for wrestling. Like you think about, I thought, after you do that thing and you listen to the thing, it's like, oh man, I forgot this. I should have said, you know what I mean? And I really did. I thought a pretty good job of like thanking all the. like the moms that help out, and cook 500 pounds of hamburger. Everybody knows who that person is. You know what I mean? I didn't say her name, but everybody knows who that is. And I had people that run the hospitality and concessions, like everybody knows who that is. But I didn't really say anything about how my coaches, and like I said, they catch you after the state tournament. After 3 days, you're tired. You know what I mean? But I did think about people that I left out. And I mean, they know. They know because I thank them all. And I am super thankful. I mean, but they really are the best coaches, and the MAC club, coaches all the way through, middle school. I mean, the people that coach at the middle school level, and then the assistant coaches. And what's really fun is like 90% of the assistant coaches now at the high school wrestling for us. You know what I mean? And like really, and I can say Miles, or we already have, or and Sean, and what I mean. They're Josh has come along. You know what I mean? And it's like all the they've. And so that's really fun, you know what I mean? So you have all these people that kind of went through the program and have the, same, techniques and the same ideas and the same belief in kids and the same belief for the program, what it's all about really. And that's an awesome thing, you know what I mean? And, but yeah, I forgot about the coaches. I mean, I did, they're amazing. And then like even things like running tournaments, like we just do it, you know what I mean? Like, I mean, I don't know how many times we've hosted district in the last, I don't know, 10 years. We must have hosted district 4 times. It's supposed to go through, 6 teams in our league, and it's supposed to go through the,
it's supposed to
jump and rotate, and it's just always like, we don't know if we have the people to do it because it takes so much, to run a tournament and to do that, And Matt Wolcott is just like, I think he's, he's the greatest. I mean, he's done such an amazing job with the Milenburg, and he and I were laughing the other day. We're hosting volleyball. The state championship.
Oh yeah.
Huge deal. We have a staff meeting about where we're going to park at. What do we want to do? Do we want to take a bus and drop teachers off at work? And so the ultimate thing, we just canceled
taking
school.
The day off. Yeah, that's what George said the other day.
Matt and I are like, there's 16 teams coming. You know what I mean? We're canceling school for 16 teams. I mean, during the Milenburg weekend, there will literally be 50 teams in LeGrand at our restaurants and our hotels and at our, you know what I mean? And we're canceling school and doing all this stuff for 16 teams. But I mean, I get it.
Bigger teams too.
Yeah. Well, between the girls, right? Because they got the Belt Buckle Classic and the Milenburg. I mean, we're somewhere around 20, whatever it is. But between the girls and the boys, there's going to be literally like, and people all over in our restaurants and hotels. And so anyway, Matt and I had a great time. But I think it gets, like, we've just done it. He's done it for so long, that I think sometimes we take that for granted. I mean, I never take it for granted. I try to thank him every chance I get. And, he's also one of my best friends too. And, so it's just like, I don't know, the whole community of wrestling, it's just, anyways, I got off sidetrack probably there on the original question or something like that. But,
No, that's awesome. There's such a great advantage of having kind of a legacy program when your staff are people that you taught or that wrestled for you, then people just kind of know. They know the Klel way, whatever that is,
Yeah.
this is what we do in wrestling, and that creates, you know, a wonderful legacy. It seems like, and I could be wrong, but it seems like over the years, the younger clubs have more developed than what they were in the past. And talk about that and how then that has helped supply wrestlers, you know, at the high school level.
Yeah, I think you know, that's another thing that, you know, we've been you know, really blessed with, I would say. Too, is just like that, you know, like I feel like from K-12, you know, like it's really strong. You know, it's not just like, you know, we got a good group of kids that are in high school right now. You know, I can look down and see, you know, the different, you know, the clubs that are in our valley, or, you know, the people that, you know, that are doing things with kids and develop them at a young age, you know, and the, you know, and the MAC clubs and, you know, and the MAC club and what they're doing down there. And I mean, the time that they put in, those coaches, again, and I don't want to start into it because, like, has so many people to thank, you know, but, or, you know, that are such a huge part of all of that. But there's, you know, like, I will say, you know, Scott Vicinius, he kind of does the, you know, he's been involved with MAC Club on the board side for a long time, and just kind of registrations and knowing kids and whatever. You know, we went on a hike the other day, and Scott was telling me, you know, like, he thinks there could be, you know, 150 kids this year in the MAC Club, you know, and so that's just, it's amazing. And
Now, have those clubs always been in place, or have they just developed?
No, they have. Yeah, there's
okay.
always been a MAC club. There's always been, you know, some, you know, like after Monty did it, you know, Doug Henderson took over after Monty and did a great job with kids, and he really developed, you know, really, I mean, the kids like, you know, you're like Kyle's age, you know, and Kyle and Dino and Andy and, you know, Michael and all the, you know, John Tuck and a lot of those kids came through Doug's program. He did a great job, and it's just. It wasn't, you know, and then after that, you know, there was just a lot of different people that have done a lot with the program. You know, here I am mentioning a few names, but you can't help it, you know. And then as time went along, I think, you know, the catalyst or the person that, you know, I do think had a huge impact on that, you know, was Jeff Robinson. You know, really, he's a really, you know, one of the best promoters, like, and he really promoted LeGrand wrestling at the youth level, and that's when we saw the numbers really jump, was when Jeff was doing that. And he's really involved in the, you know, middle school level now, and still, you know, with girls wrestling, you know, women's wrestling, LeGrand, and has really done an amazing job of, like, promoting that and doing those things. And, you know, the club, you know, the Mays, you know, Dino and Amanda, I mean, they're so involved in the MAC club, and, you know, I shouldn't have, hey, now I think about 10 more names, I should say.
Right,
you know,
right, yeah.
But, you know, there's just so many people. But, yeah, I feel like, you know, the whole thing, you know, like K-12, there's just a lot of people that really care about kids, and they care about the same thing that I think is important, and is, you know, to try to build these kids to be good people, because, you know, like, how many of them really are going to be state champions? Of those 150 kids, and, you know, and I've only coached, you know, 30, whatever, I don't even know, some number, you know, of state champions in my career, which is, you know, I've been blessed, right? You know, but like 150 of them aren't going to be state champions, you know, but they can all learn the lessons that wrestling has to teach, and which, you know, and, you know, it's just, and it can help, you know, to help them, give them something in their life that makes them a little bit different. And they've, you know, went through something that's real hard, and hopefully they do come out, you know, being the greatest people and fathers and all that kind of stuff, because like we were talking earlier, you know, I mean, eventually people forget, you know what I mean? They don't know. They don't know if a kid was a state champion, or they don't know all that stuff. They don't, you know, even the kids we're talking about, like youth kid, you know, the kids at the high school today have no idea, some of these people, you know, who they are. We know, right? Because, but they don't know necessarily. And yeah, it's just, yeah, it's cool. And so, yeah, K-12, I mean, it's just the middle school, and then too, like the administrative side of it, you know, I feel like we've had a lot of support too, you know, and you know, the just administrative, you know, I mean, from the top down, you know, George really supports, you know, I feel like LeGrand wrestling and in general, but also, like, you know, just LeGrand, you know what I mean? Like, he does a lot, you know what I mean, to support athletics and do things. And now that I'm the AD coordinator at the middle school, you know, I see, you know, a little bit of that on the backside of it, things you just don't know that I didn't know, you know, maybe even the short time I've done this, you know, and just to see how he supports trying to build those youth programs and want youth programs to be good, to, you know, and ultimately, though, it comes down to the people and the, you know, program, right? Yeah. I mean, you can do all the stuff and, you know, have all the support that way administratively, but it really does, you know, come down to all these people we're talking about, and these different people willing to run tournaments and cook in hospitality rooms and cart their kids, parents. I mean, man, we've had the best parents. I mean, again, where would I start? You know what I mean? Like
Right.
that room was filled with, honestly, a lot of parents of kids that I coach, more so than kids that I coach, because I mean they're still kids. You know what I mean? The tickets for that thing was, so a lot of parents and the amount of time that they put into their kids. I mean, and hauling them to tournaments and sending them to camps and doing fundraisers for them. And I mean, it's just, yeah, there's been some amazing families, that like all their kids have come through. Again, I don't know where to start and where to end, but pretty cool. And I can't forget Darren, you know what I mean? Like, I got to thank that guy, you know what I mean? Like, he's a tremendous amount of support for the Grand in general, but like, I feel like, I can only speak for wrestling really, and he's just been a tremendous support of us and, what we want to do or like our goals. And so I've been really grateful for him. And anyway, so we're about the same age, so we talk about, we're next steps and all this kind of stuff. But
I think of it like, like coaches are, and just talking about parents, coaches are like the marks on the road, right? Coaches are the what keep you on the road. The kid's the car, and the parents are the gas. Because you ain't going nowhere without gas. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And because you have to have parents bought in. Otherwise, you can't be successful if you don't have parents bought in. It costs a lot of money.
It does,
for kids to do sports. It costs a lot of time. It takes away from family time. And without the parents completely bought in, you're in trouble as a coach. I think. And you've had that. You had really good parents. Really good parents.
Yeah, really, really great, and it, I try to say too, after being a dad of 4 kids that have gone through athletics and do those things, it's hard to be a parent, you know what I mean? It's, things come up sometimes and we're all passionate about, I told somebody the other day, like in the job that we have as educators and coaches, like, it's the thing about being rich versus wealthy, like your wealth, if you do, if you're blessed enough, right, your wealth comes from these relationships that you have with all of these people, right? And, it's not like championships or whatever. The wealth is the relationships that you have with these people that you build over the course of time. And within that, what makes you wealthy is like literally we, as educators and coaches, we deal with the most important thing to you,
right.
The most important thing to you, the most important thing to everyone, and that's their kids. Like,
yeah.
You would give up all the money in the world, you both would, your jobs, everything else because of your kids. And so sometimes when you're coaching, it gets very emotional, I guess. And the parents get really, and you have these things, but at the end of the day, like as a parent, knowing that and going through all of those things, right? Like that, it's hard, and you got to just kind of look at that. And I've gotten better as I've gotten older, like in time, knowing like I always remind myself it's hard to be a parent. So like when things come up, sometimes we do the best we can as coaches, and we love them, and you know what I mean. But but in the end of it, like I would say that like all of these parents, that coaches, I mean, predominantly for the most part, I mean, 33 years, I mean, there's stories, right? But like for the most part, you become, the people that, are still doing hospitality and still doing steak feeds and still doing these things, I mean, man, the row hands, I mean, like I can mention them, like, you know what I mean? Like, I mean, I told somebody if they want to get me to be done coaching wrestling, all they got to do is talk Chelsea Rohan into not helping me anymore. I mean, I would quit ASAP tomorrow. Like, and she knows that too, and so she's like, and she always says, "How much longer, Klel?" And she's already started to get Meilenberg ready, and they're already talking about food, her and Sean, and I don't know. Now I'm mentioning people again. There's
it's just inevitable, I think.
Yeah, there's some, but without those people, I mean, you think of these people that have had kids and they don't have any kids in the program now. They're still helping, and Kim Middleton's and the Melinda Basinius's and Scott, and I mean, you couldn't like it's just so it makes it fun. It's hard to like say, okay, I want to be done because there's like all of these people
right,
too.
so much more to do, yeah.
Yeah, there's so much more and so many more kids, and and I do love the kids coming, and I don't feel like I'm too old yet, to be in like this old person's parade. I still get competitive, like there's still a little fiber down there that gets, I may not, kick over all the garbage cans in the hallway and stuff anymore, but there's still a fire inside of me that wants to be competitive and, have, what I mean, still win, or whatever, but at the same time realizing, as you go along, I think you get better at realizing the things that are really important and, less on the, I don't know.
Was there ever a time when the parent and the coach, you know, when you're like dealing with your own kids, and and you have to remind yourself, no, that's the coach's job, and I'm not the coach. I mean, have you had that thing?
You know,
in you?
yeah, you know, it's never really, you know, I've thought about that. A lot of people have asked me that, you know, because coaching Braden and Kai in wrestling, you know, they were both, I mean, they've had a lot of success, you know, and so, I mean, you know, they both were, you know, 3-time state champions and stuff, and now they're wrestling at the college level, and, you know, and so maybe it's because they, you know, they were able to be successful that I didn't really have some of that, you know, like, I mean, nobody ever said, like, well, why are you wrestling your kid, you know, or, you know what I mean, or those kinds of things.
But what about in another, like, I think he was asking, like, have you ever had it outside of wrestling? Like, where you had to catch yourself and say, no, like other sports.
Yeah.
Like, I'm the parent, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, no, I've been a bad parent. No, that's what I mean. Like, that's what I said. Like, no, I mean, no, there was a coach, you know, like, I don't say any names, but like, they probably thought I was the worst parent of all the parents they ever had. I know they do. Like, I thought, you know, and it's like, that's what I mean. Like, it's really difficult to be a parent because it's weird, but we love our kids.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I have been that parent, and so like, I know like how a parent feels when they get upset about something, or you know what I mean. But I didn't know when I started, though. You know what I mean? You got to be a parent to kind of know what that feels like. You know what I mean? Like, it's also, I think it's helped me in my teaching too. You know, like, I mean, when I started out in elementary, you know, the parents would come in and I'd give them the scores on math and reading, and this is how they did on their testing, and blah, blah, blah. They look at me like none of that mattered, right? They want to know if their kid gets along at recess with other kids.
Yeah, if they're behaving.
And when I first started teaching, you know, they're being good in school and that kind of stuff, you know, and I look at these people like, who cares? This is their math score, you know. We got to do this to get them, you know what I mean?
We got to hit our marks, lady.
We're trying to pass tests and do all this stuff, you know. But then when you get to be a parent, like, here I am, you know, is Marissa and Elena, are they getting along in school, and do they have friends? And
I'm sure you didn't really have to ask that about your kids. Like, I mean,
I was blessed, man.
Easy.
Like I said, God's been better to me than I ever could imagine, you know. And I mean, it's just like, the kids are really good, but it's hard to be a parent, you know. It's a tough thing. As far as coaching them, or, you know, I don't know, like, what your, you know, deal was. I always loved coaching my kids, and there was really never, you know, like, any, like, awkwardness or weird. I mean, when Kai was a senior, that whole deal with Mason and him, but, you know, like, Mason's my, you know, like, you know, Mason's like my kid, too. You know, I mean, I've known him since he was born, and, like, that was a weird moment as a coach dad, you know, like the role, you know, the weird, you know, that whole thing. But I mean, I love Mason. Like, he's, you know, Mason comes to my elk camp. Mason's like, he's literally like one of my kids. Like, I would, if he called me right now and said, I need you to come, I mean, I'd drop everything to go help Mason Wolcott. So, I mean, he knows that. So, you know what I mean? Like, it's, but I mean, there has been weird times, but I mean, as your kids grow up and they're in programs and you do something, or, you know, for me, it was, you know, like, as a parent, you know, you feel like somebody, and I've had other parents feel this way about me, I know, you know, where you feel like the coach, you know, didn't care about your kid, or, you know, didn't, like, you know, care about their interest of whatever the thing was, or like they were, you know, and so then that man, Papa Bear, Mama Bear, you know, you get fired up. It's hard to be a parent, you know, it is. I mean, it's not an easy thing, but I get that too, though. Like I said, you know, like, I feel that sometimes, and when other parents feel like that, and I know they're in that moment, you know, I try to go like, okay, it's all right. You can do these things that you would think are unbelievable, but anyways, I get it.
We have some pictures that Kyle took from the commencement. I don't know, what do we call that event?
Induction,
And I mean, what was that like? Was that, I mean, you had a whole bunch of people there.
Go ahead,
just
play.
roll those, Benny. Yeah, you had a whole bunch of people that showed up.
A lot
there.
of
people.
Yeah, it was. Oh man, it was just kind of like, it's just humbling, I guess, you know, like, there's the stat girls, there's the clap daughters right there.
Yeah.
Kelsey and Michaela. So much fun. You know, Maddie's the stat girl right there. There's the lady of the hour right there, Amy. She's that's probably my favorite thing of the whole deal. Somebody asked me that, and I said, when everybody cheered, you know, when Amy's name came up, it was awesome. I mean, everybody just like, man, they, you know what I mean? They just kind of went crazy, like they yelled louder
Just
for
keep
her.
going there, Benny.
You know, yeah, just different people, and Tom Kinney in the background there. Tom was, you know, one of my. There's the family. Hey, I love that picture. That's a little baby there, born just a couple weeks ago. She was actually due on the date of this event, and she had her
That's
like
right.
a
She had
week
her
early,
early.
so that
Yeah.
you know it worked out for her to be there. Elena, my daughter that lives down in Portland. So yeah, it's just
Lena used to
there's-
work right next door here.
yeah. There's Burl and I. That was
That's
great.
my favorite picture.
Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah, me too. That was a big, like I said, that was a big deal for me that, you know, we were able to, I kind of actually wanted the whole deal, the weekend to be, you know, a lot about him too, you know, and just to sort of say thanks, you know what I mean, to just all of what he's, you know, sort of done, you know what I mean, and like, for me, and you know, it is his legacy, that's what I say, you know, I tell people, so it is his legacy, and it's just, man, yeah, it's a crazy deal, you know, when you think about that stuff. But yeah, that was a humbling deal. Like, you know, like when they ask you, they want like how that thing is organized. Once they tell you, you know, hey, you're going to get inducted into this deal, like they want you to have a captain, you know, like that's supposed to organize this whole thing. And Amy goes, are these people crazy? Like you've like coached for 30 years, you know, like, and so like I reached out to different people to like be captains, you know, like, and so like Amanda May was one of them, and Tom Kinney was one of them, and you know, they each like hit a group of people, you know, like as they called, and then there was people like you know that I reached out to just because, you know, they might not, you know, whatever, and you know, like I'm thankful for Kyle, you know, and he's a, you know, this whole thing, sports, you know, EOA Live. I mean, what you do for our community, especially now that there's not a newspaper, like, you know what I mean, like. I mean, that used to be the thing, right? Get on the bus and call, you know, Ronald Bond or whatever, you know, and, like tell him everything, and you know, he'd write and he'd make me sound a lot better than I am for sure, and. You know what I mean? And then, you know, but that all went away when the Observer, and like without you guys, like without Kyle, you know, doing the sports thing and you know, setting all this up, like, I mean, it's just our whole community, right? Like how many people have this in their community? I mean, you know, what's another community that has EOA Live, you know, that's supporting all these, you know, you went through a ramrod list there, you know, EOU sports and youth sports and what's going on. I mean, it's like, anyways, it's just there's so you know, but anyways, all these people like reached out to different people. So then when we got there, then it was just like this, you know, they got this list of all these people that you know signed up to do these you know thing. It was like, you know,
There's
it's
a lot
like
of people
wow, you
from
know,
there
then you
and
try
there.
to so then I had the job of like, okay, these people, and then first I'm like, whoa, you know, like they start all these people that are getting tickets and whatever, and then like you try to match up the, you know, like try to put like Kelsey and Michaela at the same table, and then, but then, you know, Michaela didn't know she's going to be there until the end, and you're like, oh, she can't sit with this guy. They want, you know, what's she going to talk to Rodney Hawthorne about?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, or, you know what I mean? Like, or, you know, you have, you know, or there's just a weird
He
guy.
would have found something to talk about. Though.
He would have,
I mean,
yeah, he would have.
that's
He's
just
great.
how it
But
is.
like, you know, it's just like, you know, Alex Nelson. I mean, what would they have talk? You know, hi, who are you? You know, like, and so like
that was the perfect table for me.
Yeah.
You know,
So I
couldn't be
actually put a
happier.
lot of time. I felt like I told somebody it was like a wedding, you know, trying to, you know,
Yeah,
like mix
of course,
them, you know, and
yeah.
there was, you know, because there was I don't know a couple hundred people, and I don't know, it was crazy. It was cool, you know, and people, yeah, it was just.
I can't believe how many people in there that I knew, that I've known for
Yeah.
30 years,
Yeah.
30 plus years. It's
I mean, it was
crazy.
cool. Like, you know, they were like I went to breakfast the next morning with a gal that I taught in third grade 30 years ago. You know what I mean?
Wow.
And like it, you know, stuff like that. Like he's like that's wealth. You know, like I mean, and I you know, and like Amy said, you know, it's like, you know, it's not that these people just heard this thing was going on and go to a dinner. Like you really like I talked to Lindsay Smith is her name, and I mean I talked to her like still, and I have for the last 30 years. You know, and I know what she's doing in her life. I know that she's a planning event. I mean, she does events like, you know, like Michaela, like you were talking about, you know, for, I don't know, some investment company, but the next one she's
cool.
planning is at, you know, Buckingham Palace, you know.
She's
And
an
so you
event
just
planner.
have these stories of kids and where they're at and what's going on. And so, you know, Amy and I went to breakfast with Lindsay, and that was a special, like, I don't know, just like, again, wealth, you know, and like, I don't know, just, yeah, same thing for me. You like look around, it's like, oh, I haven't seen that person for a long time. Maybe
Right.
talked to them, but haven't seen them for a bit. And for that reason, it was just cool. Even kids I went to high school with, you know, showed up, and I had a great time with them. But you know, afterward the dinner, and you know, just catching up on whatever life. You know, it felt like a wedding, you know, kind of or
Yeah.
something like that. Or yeah. Anyway,
Can you think of, before we quit, I want you to think back, and can you think of any stories because when George is here, we talk a lot about coaches and them connecting and how important it is for a kid who might not have a connection to be able to connect with somebody, you know.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering, can you think of a time, a story where there was like a diamond in the rough? There was a kid who you connected with. I mean, and there's probably lots of those. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Anything that sticks out for you? It's like,
yeah, I mean, over the course of my year, we talk about, you know, like you get on a bus trip, right, with these coaches, you know, and Sean and I and Miles and, you know, Ryan, John, you know, John Tuck. I mean, John is such a important, I mean, here I go again, you know, do you know all these people that coach with us, you know, that like their stories, and within their groups, they all have a story. It seems like every group that comes through has the story you're talking about that happens. But I mean, yeah, you know, like, what does that look like? Somebody said to me, like, you know, you say relationships all the time. You say that it makes it, you know, what does that look like? And so just the other day I told this story, and it's like one of my favorite stories, and I'll try not to mention any names just because you'll get it when I tell the story. But, you know, about the time, well, it's when John was wrestling, you know, one of his teammates, you know, and you know, this kid, you know, he's like failing his classes, right? Like all of his classes, and he wasn't doing it. He's rough. I mean, a rough kid, like, you know, super rough. And so I would literally pick him up every single day, like, and I would take him to school every day. And not only that, I'd get out of the car every single day, and I'd walk him into class, and I'd walk him down the halls to his classes.
to make sure he got
To
there.
make sure that he went into the classes, and I
Yeah.
do this all the time. And and the one time he got to the point, because he's rough, you know, teachers didn't, you know, I mean, I wouldn't want to, you know, hard to have in class, you know, and I'd take him in there, and I would literally, one time I held his hand and walked him into the class, and the teacher, I said, look, I know that he doesn't like you and you don't like him, but we got to figure this out. He needs to pass your class, and he needs to be better in school, and he needs to do these kinds of things, right? And, you know, yada, 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 and whatever, you know, and, you know, this is like 7 o'clock in the morning or whatever, 7:30 in the morning, and then I'm late for school, whatever. Hey, don't tell my boss, but hey, you go those kind of things. You walk into the door, and then, you know, and one day, though, I was walking out, and this particular kid I'd taken to school, you know, over and over and over, and I'm walking down the hall, and this is kind of what this looks like, you know, and I walk down the hall, this other teacher looks out the door at me, and I'll never forget this, and then looks at me and he says, what do you expect to get out of this? And I looked at the guy, and I didn't know what to say, you know what I mean? I was like shocked, like, what do you say? And so anyways, you know, like, go down the road, right? The kid ends up passing his classes, he ends up being a state placer in wrestling, he ends up, and you know, he's doing really, he's killing it in life right now. Like, he was a person I talked to, you know, like the morning of, you know, somebody who couldn't make the thing, but, you know, I still talk to these people, right? And now he's killing it in life, and he's a great father, right? He's great, you know, he's doing all these things in life, his job is, you know, everything else is going really well. But when the graduation happens, right, in LeGrand High School, they'd line up teachers, you know, and they do that thing where you walk in and stuff. And so this kid's really rough. He's not like a kid that says, hey, I love you, Klel, you know, or that kind of thing. He's just rough, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So he graduates, he walks down out of the crowd of all the graduates standing there in front of all those teachers. Hey, comes up to me, you know, tells me he loves me. Hey, thanks for helping him. And that's
what you get out of it.
That's the wealth, right? That's the
Right.
wealth. And then, you know, then I talked to him on Saturday morning before, you know what I mean, before that induction, and he couldn't be there because somebody in his family really important was getting married that day, you know. So, you know, stuff like that. I mean, and I got, you know, every group has a kid like that, you know. I mean, not to that extent maybe, and I don't know. You know, you get, yeah. There's always a story. So. There's always a story like that, though.
Yeah.
Or the real stories, or the Preston Weston goes from a couple of years ago.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
The best
things
part
like
of
that.
sports.
You know, yeah, it is the best part of sports. You know, I think that's been the funnest thing for me too. You know, like a kid like that, and you never know who it's going to be, right? And
Right.
And they're like, and all of a sudden they just do this amazing thing, and you know, he was Kung Fu Panda. That's what, you know, everybody would call him, you know, like he'd limp out there, you know, not maybe the most talented or the most, you know, like gifted person, but hardest worker and a brain, you know, mind. He was really, you know, and his lungs. I tell people, like, you know, he wasn't gifted with the athletic ability, but he was gifted with lungs, you know what I mean? And like some people don't have that. They have smaller lungs. I really believe that, and they just can't wrestle very well in third period, you know.
True.
But for him, it was like third period, you know, he was the same, you know, and there's kids that I coached that didn't have, you know, had tons of athletic ability, but, you know, people, you know, in third period, if you can breathe really, really well, you can beat a lot of kids. And, And so he was gifted in that way, blessed in that way. But yeah, he went from being the Kung Fu Pounded to Alpha Wolf, and getting third in the state. And yeah, I've coached a lot of kids that weren't third in the state. It's not easy to do, and it was pretty, stuff like that where a kid's does exceedingly better than they should have, just because they work hard and they do all these things right. And I don't know.
Well, and what's funny is in those situations you weren't taking the kid to class every day knowing how it was going to turn out. You were just taking him to class because you knew that's what he needed right now. You knew that he needed accountability. You knew he needed somebody to care for him. Yeah. And the way that it turned out was just, that's a bonus.
Yeah, it's just a bonus. Yeah, it's cool. Whole thing's been a bonus, for the most part, good and the bad.
Klel, thank you. Yeah, congratulations. We couldn't be happier for you.
Yeah,
Thanks for sending your kids my way.
Yeah.
Thanks for sending your kids my way, all of them.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks. And it was, when Michaela started first with Amanda, they were the stat girls, and I mean, you've given more definition to it than what I ever knew it was. I just knew that they were attached, and then and then both of them married wrestlers, and then Kelsey followed. So yeah,
Oh man,
what a crew all of those kids are. So blessed,
man. Yeah, life's good.
Yeah. Well, thank you, man. Want to get us out of here?
Yeah. On this day, October 28th, 1726, Gulliver's Travels by Jonathan Swift is published by Benjamin Mott in London. 1886, on this day, the Statue of Liberty is dedicated by President Grover Cleveland and is celebrated with the first confetti parade in New York City. 1919, the Volstead Act is passed by Congress, establishing a nationwide ban on alcohol, despite President Woodrow Wilson's veto. 1965, on this day, the Gateway Arch is completed in St. Louis, Missouri. That thing's 630 feet tall. That's a big arch. 2020, a new coral reef taller than the Empire State Building is discovered north of Australia's Great Barrier Reef. And then 2021, Mark Zuckerberg announces Facebook will change its corporate name to Meta amid increased public scrutiny over leaked internal documents. The number one song in this day, in 1995, Fantasy by Mariah Carey. And then the quote of the day comes from Bruce Lee. Do not pray for an easy life. Pray for the strength to endure a difficult one. One more time. Do not pray for an easy life. Pray for the strength to endure a difficult one.
Excellent.
This Friday.
Yeah. Thanks,
7
Klel.
o'clock.
Yeah.
Appreciate you being here.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me.
Yep.
Yeah. So Thursday, right here, the new city manager, John O'Brien, and the public works director, Kyle Carpenter, will be here with us to talk about roads and snow and everything that the public, everything that he does. So thanks, guys. See you soon.